biggest things that I see are gym owners that have all this data and they haven't done anything with it, right? They have 7,000 clients over the years that they've been operating, and they've never run any kind of reactivation campaign. That's the very first thing you should look at. Boy, life will take you through a whirlwind. You know, you think that whatever is bringing you success, if you keep doing that same thing, then you'll continue to reap the rewards. Well, at some point, you know, in my case, it kind of dried up a little bit because the same success that I was seeing was not the same thing that I needed to implement as I was growing my business. And, you know, it was actually something that held me back because the way that we started our personal training business and grew to 100 plus locations, scaled it across 5 different states, that worked for that specific business model. And as soon as I got into owning gyms, I was using that same playbook because it was sales oriented, right? It was a sales system, it was a PT system, and we were just, you know, burning through customers that would come in. Now, that's not to say that we didn't have good intentions, because I come from a background in personal training. I got my exercise physiology degree, and it made a lot of sense to me that customers needed help. A lot of times they join gyms, and they join gyms for a reason. A lot of times they don't have the support that they need in order to make sure that they're actually getting where they need to go. And I always say that, you know, trainers are natural nurturers. So that was kind of like the space that I fit in. But I learned sales, and I learned how to have conversations so you can drive the conversation to a point where someone's making the healthiest decision possible. Usually that involves getting a coach and working with someone and then making some lifestyle changes. And that does cost money, and we got to pay coaches and trainers for that. We got to pay nutritionists for their duties and their jobs to help people get healthy. Needless to say, I'm going to take about 10 minutes here, and I want to just kind of walk through some things where I think that I've traversed through life. And, you know, I've gone through this path, and there are things that I've done that I think others can avoid, right? If they hear this, they're going to listen to it and go, I probably should avoid that. So that's the purpose of this, is to give you just kind of a quick insight on what I've done over the years, how I grew and scaled a multi-million-dollar personal training business, and then how I took that same model and tried applying it to owning and operating gyms. And for a period of time, actually, it was pretty successful until it wasn't successful. And so, yeah, I just want to talk through that for a little bit here. So what I noticed was, you know, and it took me years to figure this one out, because I was spending so much time developing the process in which someone joins as a member, and then you help them get their results, right? And if you're just focused on that, you're focused on selling people who've joined a gym, and then you're just focused on getting them results. And it works out really great, because if they're getting results and the trainers are great, then you kind of have a system that continues to feed itself, right? Because then they probably are going to go tell someone else that they worked at this gym and then they got results from this trainer. So it worked well for many years. And we had several trainers that would stick around. We had clients that would stick around. We had really high conversion rates on personal training. Typical, you know, for gyms is, you know, that I would say is good is anywhere from 10 to 15%. And we were at 25% on average. When we opened our own gyms, we were at 30% that were converting. Some gyms were at 40%. And, you know, that's a really great conversion rate for people who join a gym and then get personal training. So we were operating off of that basis. And I remember we opened our first gym. It took us probably about 6 months before we were cash flowing. Within a year, we were breaking even. Our second gym, we opened with enough members. I mean, we were doing really great. We were at cash flowing from day one. Our third gym, we were in the same boat. And it was a really good time because we were just processing through this system. Plus, because we were new gyms, naturally people kind of like restaurants, like, oh, what is that over there? You know, I'm gonna go check that place out. So we lived off of that while simultaneously we're operating this personal training company, and we have a lot of locations and a lot of gym owners and a lot of personal trainers. You know, we got to a point where we were just living and focused solely on that sales process, right? That same play that had been for us for so long. Somebody would come in, they would join, we'd sign them up for personal training, and then that cycle would repeat itself. The problem was that we had anywhere from 60 to 70%, right? If we're closing 30 to 40% on personal training, 60 to 70% of them were not buying training, and they were members. And then if you look at any industry statistics, and we were in that group, after about 6 months, 50% of your members leave. They go somewhere else, right? So if that's happening, then we're always having to replace the system. We're always having to replace the subscriptions that those members were on, right? So we had to find new members to pay for those subscriptions, so that way we didn't have this revenue loss. So every time we get to that point, we would run ad campaigns. And those ad campaigns, typically, they were mailers that we'd send out. We'd do like, oh, hey, we're gonna run a mail blast, and we're just gonna blast everybody. Or we would do we'd call an agency, and it was typically this process. Hey, we need to call that agency again so we can get some more leads. That was our flow, and because that was our flow, and my business partner at the time, he would call it hang and bang, because we would get on the phone and we would dial, and we were hanging on that phone line, and then when we were done, we were clicking it up and then pick up the phone line again, and we just keep going until we got enough members to fill that gap. And that would last for a while. And then we go back to the drawing board and we'd do another campaign. And I wouldn't even call it a campaign. It was just an ad. Right? We'd run out there, we'd throw an ad out, kind of see what stuck. And there was no strategy behind it. So as things evolved, we got to a point, and then COVID hit. And guess what? Because we had no marketing plan, we had no strategy, there was no way to really get out of that, right? I sold one of my gyms for pennies on the dollar. The other two, they were at the end of their lease. So we closed out the leases, and it made no sense to keep going. So hindsight always being 2020, it's always that situation. You look back and you go, man, had I known some of these things. I mean, even back then, I was not reading marketing books. I was not reading business books. I was so focused on the one thing that I did really well, which was personal training. And it grew so fast that I was like, this is the play we got to keep running. You know, I ran a play and this one is working, so let's keep running it. Well, the reality was, as the time progressed, I started to realize that I needed a CRM system. So we implemented a CRM system, but it wasn't really there, right? We didn't do it fully because we had no marketing strategy behind it. It's a CRM system with data. We just have data. Now, what do we do with it? So I say all this to you because a lot of times I'm working with gym owners now, and when I have conversations, a lot of the pieces aren't in place, right? They have a website, but it's not a marketing website. We had a website too for our gyms, and it was not a marketing website. There was no way for someone to take action on something or for us to track them. If they did take action on something, there was no way for us to track what was really going on and to retarget them or to segment them or to put them in a pool and be like, these individuals over here are the type of individuals going to buy this specific service or this specific product. And we didn't look at it from that angle. We looked at it from the lens of, when somebody comes in the door, we're going to help them and we're going to get them service. We're going to take care of them, and they're going to lose weight, or they're going to put on muscle, or going to get rid of their pain, whatever it is. We know personal training, and we know personal trainers, and we're going to help those people out. When it comes to running a gym, and if you're operating personal training in your gym, and even if you have a gym and you're not operating personal training, some of the biggest things that I see are gym owners that have all this data and they haven't done anything with it, right? They have 7,000 clients over the years that they've been operating, and they've never run any kind of reactivation campaign. That's the very first thing you should look at doing, because it's like cost you nothing. Or they don't have any kind of nurture sequence, right? When somebody comes in, like, what's the onboarding process for a new member? How do you take care of them? How do you make them feel like this is the place they want to be? I'll tell you right now that gyms are getting more and more conscious. Gym owners and the bigger brands and the ones that have their stuff together, they're getting more conscious on how they deliver results, how they deliver an experience to the consumer, right? So they stick around, because we've been tracking this information for years. We know the life cycle of a customer. We know when they're probably going to leave, right? So now we have all this data, and now with even more tools that have better analytics, and we have AI that's really going to give us even better insights on that data, you're going to fall into a place where your competition is going to beat you and you're going to be left in the dust. But the only way to get ahead of the game is to start taking action now. And we right now are in the month of November, right? You're about ready to get into the new year. And as you get into the new year, before you even get into that rush, you got to start thinking about how you're going to plan out your year next year, and how are you going to plan for January? How are you going to make sure that when those people come in, they stick? Because all of us know that when they join, even most people, if you're not even a gym member or a gym owner and you're just a gym member listening to this, you probably know that after about 2 or 3 weeks, the gyms start clearing out. And it's because people come in, they get excited, they join, and then they stop going. That's a normal thing. It's a normal process. It happens every year. So, if you're in this position, if you're listening to this, one key takeaway, one key piece of advice that I can kind of hedge my bets on that will work for you is, if you, number one, sit down and put together a marketing strategy, put together a marketing plan. How are you going to take care of the customers that you have in your business? And something that's really easy that you can do, take all the data that you have, all the customers that are in your database, and identify, throw it in ChatGPT. It'll take that information. It'll spit out what your custom your customer avatar is, right? Take all the data that you have, put it in ChatGPT, write the right prompt, and ask it, who is my customer avatar? Who should I be looking for? Okay. On top of that, before you just throw money at ads and ad spend, okay, be sure that you're really planning out your journey. How are you going to take care of your customers? What is it that they want? And start selling results and solutions, not just one member at a time. I think had I been focused on a true strategy, really nurturing and taking care of the clients that are coming in the door, and for that 60 to 70% of customers, right? Because we're selling 30 to 40 of them on PT. The 60 to 70% of customers, how do we take care of them? How do we make sure that they are also getting results? Maybe they didn't buy PT because they, one, didn't believe in it, or two, maybe thought they were going to, follow the workout program on the end of the bookshelf from the grocery store that they saw, or something online that they found. But it's your duty as a business owner, as a gym owner, right? You're providing this facility, this space where people come and exercise. I believe it's your duty. If you're going to put something up like that, make sure that you can support them, right? It's not just about the equipment. It's not just about having a clean place, because I had all those things and it still didn't work. I had great people on my team and it still didn't work because I didn't provide the tools and the systems that needed to be followed for the gym to thrive. Okay. So, take my advice for, whatever it's worth. I really appreciate you guys listening in. And I hope that little story can help you understand where you kind of need to take your business. If you're focused on just one play that's always been working for you, maybe you got to change it up a little bit. Maybe you got to look internally, look in the mirror, take a look at what you've been doing for your business and see how you can optimize it and how you can actually take care of your customers. If you're focused on them, if you're focused on your customers first, guarantee things are going to follow and your business will eventually do well. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.